Hey, John, welcome back to another conversion focused website review. Today we're going to take a look at SeatGeek. And I know we do some work with the Timbers there in Portland,
hmm
who are obviously going to be listed on here. I'm not sure if they have Disney on Ice, but my family and I are going to Disney on Ice soon. So maybe we could have grabbed some seats for that. I think they really focus on sports and concerts, but I don't know.
hmm
Some people, I see Hamilton on here. So maybe
Nice. All
they're in
right.
there, but I don't know. Have you ever booked through SeatGeek? I think I did way back in the day for like a Penn State bowl game I went to in Orlando, and I
Nice.
think I got our tickets through SeatGeek. But yeah, any
Yeah.
past experience?
Yeah, definitely views them. That's how you buy tickets for the Timbers and the Thorns here in Portland. And, as you mentioned, we're working with both of those to help them uh, improve the consumer user experience on their site and help push them into SeatGeek to actually buy their single game tickets, which um, is a big push for both of those teams. And obviously, with the Thorns having just won the National Women's Soccer League championship a couple of weeks ago now, it's an exciting time to be working on with those brands. So. Yeah, excited to check this portion of the user journey out. If somebody is just starting at SeatGeek.com, what that looks like. And I will say, first thing first, they're clearly pitching the sports angle. As you said, it's the first thing. There's search by team. Um, I think that's interesting. You can see down below that they have trending events. That it looks like, what is that? Cleveland. I'm guessing it's NBA. It's the Cavs.
Yep.
Oh yeah, look at that. But yeah, Disney first on eyes. I mean, it looks
There
like
it
they have
is.
stuff for everybody, right? So
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm in a guest window here, and somehow they've still managed to, geolocate because obviously I'm here in Cleveland,
yeah.
and they've got the Cavs, they got the Disney on Ice I was talking about. That's the
hmm
exact one we're going to. So, and then it does. I don't know if this is intentional, but it does look like this background image is Cleveland Browns colors. So that might just be coincidence because SeatGeek has this kind of
Mm,
burnt orange thing going on, and maybe it
yeah.
is, but that would be kind of cool if they did that too, and if they could swap those out for your local team or some kind of local concert. But I think really this is an example of a brand being customer centric in terms of design decisions. They
Mhm.
know most people are coming here with a specific event in mind that they're trying to buy tickets to. So the entire like high priority, high value real estate is given to that functionality. It's like, let's get somebody to whatever they're looking for as quickly as possible. Let's remove all the distractions. So to that point, like
Mhm.
normally I'm not a fan of dark mode design, but for this, I
Mm.
love it because it makes the search field stand out that much more. And the headline is short and to the point, and it kind of just gets out of the way. And it says like, well, like what would I want to do? The first thing I do on this page is try to fill this box with something, right? Like I have something
Mhm.
in mind. So I think to that point, or to if that's the goal, they've done a great job here prioritizing that.
I would agree. Put the consumer experience front and center, and we've done a lot of research on search, and I know based on our experience that SeatGeek has search dialed in, and that is partly why they're able to do this. Right? There's a lot of brands who try to put search front and center and just fail miserably because the search results are pretty horrible. Um, we I really liked how when you clicked on it that it offered them, consumer I should say, some guidance, and I think that is amazing. Help start the filtering here. So they've done a really good job with that. If you want to go see a concert, something of that sort, you're going to click on that and then see what's available. So that's a great way to start the journey and kind of aid people, guide them down that search journey. But overall, we have found that if people search and then they convert at a much higher rate because they generally know what they're looking for. So if you can have that search result page really deliver, then you will convert people at a much higher rate.
Yeah. Love to see that. And I love that they didn't try to cram every one of these categories into the primary navigation. I like that it's just
hmm
kind of three big buckets. We do sports, we do music, and we do everything else. And then the drop down mega menus present exactly what everything else entails or the different types of
Yep.
sports, but it keeps it real simple, three items or less. I think that's great. And then they have kind of these administrative or
hmm
secondary, options available completely on the other side of the screen so that if you want to sell or if you need some help, that's separated entirely from these commercial or transactional
Yeah.
funnels that somebody can go down. So I think that's really smart.
Yes, I agree, and I love how they didn't put like a cart icon or anything
Mhm.
of that sort. They, as you said, they kept it simple, which is great. It's what people are here for.
One question for you. I don't know if this is more modern, I guess, modern standards, or if it's maybe an accessibility thing, but I'm kind of surprised they don't have a submit button here. And I know a lot of people will just type and hit enter,
Mm,
but it is kind of odd to not see some kind of a confirmation element over here that would just let you know, hey, I type in Dallas Cowboys or Cleveland Cavaliers or whatever,
mhm.
and then click submit. I know my mom would be looking for that. I don't know that she would just hammer home, Dallas Cowboys and hit enter. But I'm just wondering if that's a non-issue these days, or if that's something that might be worth considering.
I think it's definitely worth considering. I think that as they're trying to guide you, I bet if you typed in Cleveland into that box, you would probably see that the Cavs come up. Right there, you go. So that's really what they're trying to do, is do a guided search.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of guided search because you can do things like they've done. Give you top results, also give you suggestions, the three major sports teams, right? And then have specific events. So this is a great. I'm a huge fan of this search. I know that our team, we do a monthly all team meeting where we share things that we like for inspiration. And once we start working with the Timbers, the team did share this search results as something that they liked, and it didn't bother anyone on the team, and it really doesn't bother me. There's not a submit button, only because they've done so good and so well with the uh, guided search, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely had these go wrong. I'm looking at you fantasy sports sites where you try to type somebody's name in and it doesn't show a player here, and then you're just sitting there with like
Mhm.
Johnson typed in or something like that, and there are like 58 Johnsons, but none of them are showing up, and there's no submit button. You're like, I guess I'll refresh the page and try again. Like I don't know what to do, or
Yeah.
type in first name last name. So as long as it works properly, yeah, I can totally see the allure of that. So let's look. So it's going to show me some local trending events, which I think is smart.
Mhm.
This kind of carousel navigation is a little bit buried for me, and
Mhm.
this CTA here is a little understated. Like I don't care as much that it's the number two trending event as much as I care what is this headline that says Paramore, and how do I
Mhm.
go buy my tickets. And I think that if you swap those around, that's my personal take on it, is you want that bright orange or that reddish orange, at least how it's looking on my screen, to be
Mhm.
kind of your call to action button down here at the bottom.
I would agree. Yeah, the number doesn't really tell me anything. I think it's a psychology play, perhaps, that it's a top three event. I should want it because it's creating social proof to some degree. Um, but I would do something like number one bestseller or something of that sort, as opposed to saying trending events or number one trending. I don't know. I would play around with those and do some testing there. I think you could get rid of the 1 through 5 carousel. Again, people aren't going to click on it. We could do some click tracking. It's unlikely. um, I also think you could get rid of the arrow. And the reason I'm suggesting get rid of the arrow is Buccaneers at Browns is down. Do I really want that if it's down? Right? I should wait to buy that ticket, right? Because it's probably going to be cheaper later. So if you're really thinking about that, I'm not a huge fan of the arrow, quite honestly. It's having a negative effect.
I might only show the up arrow, right? Like just show me the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
climbing. And maybe that's because they're coming up quickly and people are trying to get their tickets, but maybe it's because they're
Mm-hmm.
getting more popular. And LeBron's coming to town or something and decided to play when people were wondering if he was injured. Like that would catch my
Right.
attention. I don't know that we need to emphasize the downward trending, to your point. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to make me any
Agreed.
more likely to purchase. Okay, so Twinsburg is obviously my city. The jig is up,
Mm-hmm.
so everybody knows. But it does look like I can change that location, and I can also filter by upcoming dates. So if I was looking for something for Christmas or my wife
Mm-hmm.
and I's anniversary or something like that, I think that's really smart. It's a pretty standard date picker here. So
Yeah.
anything worth commenting here in this section, John? I
Only
see
that
another
I'm
carousel.
not a huge fan of the colors they chose for the categories there. Um, a purple person, and it's just I would say get rid of that. Rely on the real photos. Maybe there's a reason they can't use the real photos. There might be some licensing issues there or something. Um, but I would say get rid of the weird colors. Just because it doesn't really add any value. It just makes me question it. Also, again, with the carousel, I would just stack those categories. There's not that many of them. So just have 3 or 4 rows of categories. I think that would perform a lot better.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm wondering
And
if
the high.
the illustrations are a limitation of that dark mode design, right? If you lead with
Hmm.
a black background, you almost have to go with colors, otherwise everything's white and gray, and it just kind of gets muted. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But again, like the highlights, we've already seen that those are our items up above. So we really don't need those here again, right? So you could fill that space. Um, the top events, I think, okay, but maybe
yeah,
if I'm just browsing things, but it's only one venue. And we know that there's lots of venues in Cleveland, all the way down. Look, it's all over. You go down to Cincinnati from Cleveland. That's a heck of a drive, but okay. Go to the Bills. That's not too far. Ohio State and Columbus. All of that, they're doing a great job of recommending stuff that's near you because you're not going to attend an event, most likely, that's going to be very far from you, right?
right.
You're not going to come to California. If you are, you're looking for a specific event, right, that you're going to fly to, and you already know what you want. So I do like that they've personalized this to some degree.
Yeah, they have this tough balancing act to do between. I see 7 pages of this, and it's like, okay, 7 times 3, assuming we swap all 3 of these out,
Yeah.
that's 21 items. I see why they want to get as many events as high on the page as they can, or in front of you as quickly as they can. But at the same time, like, how many people are making it to page 5? And
Hmm.
let's say that I wanted to see all of the available sports near me. There's no button
Hmm.
that says that, like view all sports or view all local sports or view all
Hmm.
sports events in your area. I'd rather see that button here. So show me maybe 6 examples. So two
Yeah.
rows of 3. Show me 6, and then have this button be view all local sports or sports in your area, view all
Yep.
concerts in your area, view all Broadway shows in your area, that kind of thing. That
Yeah.
would make a lot of
Agreed.
sense to me. And then I think we're getting to the point now where most people know that you can click on these images and get through, but there is no button element here, and we've been conditioned to look for buttons elsewhere on the page.
Hmm.
So in terms of like actually taking action on this $91 ticket with Ed Sheeran, most people are going to get it, but there could be a little bit of confusion there into exactly how
Yeah.
do I, buy that.
Definitely want to be clear with your call to actions and tell people what you want them to do. And I think that's missing here for sure. So a clear call to action under each of those. I agree. Get rid of the number pill and number navigation up there. Instead, just say view all would be great, or view all near me. Right.
Mhm.
That's basically what's happening anyway. So agree with you there. I think that'd be a much better user experience.
Cool. All right. It looks like they're going to break down every category. Of course, comedy has the most personality in
Hmm.
terms of their images. It is kind of weird to see like, okay, I've got a live event photo here. I've got a poster photo here. I've
Hmm.
got something that's clearly been doctored after the fact in like Photoshop or something like that here for these specific events. And then we've got illustrations way up top here. So it does kind of feel
Yeah.
like everything's getting a little bit of a different treatment. And maybe that's because they're being scraped from some other kind of like curator, or the ticket office that has to put these out or something like that. And there's not much that SeatGeek can do here, but consistency goes a long way, I think, in terms of where to look for things. So I don't know, that jumped out at me, but that's probably a little bit nitpicky at this point.
Yeah, I do agree with you though. I think they're missing the visual brand language,
Hmm.
right? They have it for the upfront. They did such a good job at the top of the page, right? We both commented on how that felt really great. It drove you right to what you wanted, and then as you continue down the page, you're kind of all over the place. So, um, you're right. It could be because for some, maybe they have a team that does nothing but create these for comedy shows,
Right.
and Broadway has its own feel, right? But this reminds me a little bit of how if you go to Netflix and they do a ton of testing on all of the different tiles for those images, for the preview images, right?
Hmm.
And there's a whole bunch of studies on you can see it best if you go all the way up to the top, how all of those preview images, once you're in the app, right?
Yeah.
And they tailor it to you. The ones that you start clicking on, it starts recognizing, oh, they're really into faces. They prefer illustrations. Want an action scene, right? I feel like there's some testing that could be done on those tiles on SeatGeek to clearly show which of those are going to get the most clicks in each category, right? And Broadway, maybe it's having the performer when possible, right? And maybe they from Moulin Rouge they don't have a picture of the performer yet, right? Obviously with comedy, something like that, it's all about that one person up on stage. That's what you're going to focus on. Concerts, it might be something where you're showing different types. But here again, it's the performer for two of them, and a poster for one, which is a little odd to me, but okay. Uh, but overall, I would say that uh, I think that they're missing some clear call to actions here, and you know, really they're focusing on the discovery aspect here more than anything else, and that's where I think there's a lot of similarities to what Netflix does, because Netflix is the exact same way. You go to Netflix, you're trying to discover. You either know exactly what you want, right, and you're going to search for it, or you're trying to you're trying to kill time. You're trying to discover what's available.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of similarities there.
Agreed. One last thing I'll say here that I was thinking of while you were describing, what various things you could test is what about like a video, right? Like a quick little
Hmm.
looping 10-second video from the actual event, because that's
Hmm.
ultimately what we all want is we want to see the big dunk. We want to see the touchdown being scored. We want to see the crowd
Hmm.
celebrating and like feel like we're part of that. We want to see the comedian being crazy on stage. We want to see the performers. Imagine
Hmm.
this is Blue Man Group and there's paint going everywhere, right? They're hammering on the
Yeah.
drum or whatever. Like that kind of immersive element might be worth testing versus static imagery too, because that could be kind of
Yeah.
cool.
I would do it on rollover for sure.
Hmm.
Because then I'm going to play with each of these, right? It's going to get me to engage and say, oh, well, what's Jim Gaffigan like on stage? And if you do something where he's just standing there in front of a mic, talking, you're like, oh, okay, it might be a little more subdued, right? Where Jeff Dunham, you can clearly see that he's going to be doing, what is that called? A ventriloquist.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea to test for sure.
Cool. Okay, so we'll round things out with the footer. The first thing that stands out to me is, oh, they have an app. And like, I knew that intuitively, but this is the first time I think it's being mentioned here on the homepage,
Hmm.
which is kind of interesting considering we just took a look at another site at Peloton and like the app was a big part of what they do. And they were trying to get folks into the app to start doing workouts, hopefully, or presumably with the goal ultimately of selling them the equipment to
Hmm.
help them do the workouts at home. It does feel kind of interesting that especially as folks are doing more and more commerce on their phones, that the app is kind of buried here in the footer to even get
Hmm.
started with something like that.
I do like that they've entered a phone number to send me a link, but I would prefer a privacy statement there as well. Like, we won't use your phone number, we don't store your number, something else like that. Right now, it's blank, so I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to do that, but I know I'm going to get a bunch of texts from you. I probably don't want that,
Hmm.
right? The other thing is, I would list all the categories here for different types of tickets. If I'm just browsing and I've come this far down on your page, I probably just want an overview of all the different categories again, especially since the nav is not persistent, right? So the navigation's now gone. Um, and then, resources is okay, but help and support, if I have an issue and I want to get a hold of you, I'm going to scroll down and look in your bottom right hand corner. That's all missing. There's no contact information here whatsoever. And help and support is buried under resources. So either SeatGeek's really trying to make it so that you can't get a hold of them very easily, which might be the case. Maybe it's like the Amazon approach where it's like, you need customer service, you're probably in the wrong spot. But they're really not being very helpful here with getting in touch with them if you have an issue.
Yeah, I would agree. And how many people have issues with their tickets? They're not showing up at the ticket
Hmm.
office and then the barcode's scratched or something like that. Or they were supposed to have a parking pass and that didn't come along with the tickets. So now they don't have a parking pass for the game. I'm sure that kind of stuff happens all the time. And it almost feels
Yeah.
like let's just deflect that responsibility onto whoever sold it to you. And I'm not saying that that's what they're doing here, but that's how it feels as a consumer. When I can't find
Hmm.
help, it's like, okay, I'm being left out on my own. I'd love to see the four columns here, or maybe even just three. Like, I don't know how you feel as somebody that has a computer science background, but like all the developer stuff being in the footer here, I feel like I don't know what kind of developers are plugging into the API here, and I'm sure it's popular, but like I don't know that I would expect to find that here in the footer. I'd probably be doing a Google
Hmm.
search, and then hopefully it takes me to the developer page or the API documentation page through organic search rankings, and then you're good to go because I think if you pull the categories down here and you have those commercial links,
Hmm.
then you can have some resources in social. And I think column 4 for me would be those support links. It would be the exact, like, here's the fastest way to get in touch by phone, live
Yep.
chat, email, and then our support kind of standards, our help docs. I would use this developer real estate and have kind of those 4 columns: the commercial category links, resources about the company, or support comes next, then social, that kind of stuff, and the branded
Yeah.
links.
Perfect. I agree. I agree completely. And overall, though, I think, SeatGeek does a pretty good job here. I like that they've personalized things. There's a lot of variety. They, as we talked about, they really are pushing search, which they should do. Everything else is kind of secondary to that. In the search, they do an amazing job with that being a guided search approach. All in all, I think SeatGeek does a pretty good job, and I think that if folks can take anything away from this, it's to try to replicate that search approach. And other than that, I think there's a few small things that I would 100% be testing on this if I was working with them, and I think that that could help discovery quite a bit.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, John. Well, thanks so much for joining us again today and sharing your expertise. We'll look forward to doing another one of these with you really soon.
So, looking forward to it. Thank you.